from the early in the morning, we discussed creativity. We now discuss technology, but now we will be discussing money. So for discussing money, I would like to bring onto stage my dear colleague and friend, Mehjabeen Patrick, Chief Financial Officer and Investment Officer of EIT Culture and Creativity.
Thank you.
So while the guests of the next roundtable get mic'd, I would like to take the opportunity to ask Mehjabeen about the investment market of culture and creative industry. What is our approach to that? And importantly, why do we need an investment network?
Yeah, definitely. Thank you very much. Really great to be here. I think since this morning, you've heard a lot from our amazing speakers, and you've heard a lot of different sort of perspective on the importance of the sector, on importance of the creative and culture industries to play, the role they play in bringing transformation, not just to create economic impact, but create social impact, make our planet green. So we, as a sector, we are really in a very good position to play a very important role in transforming the future of this nation, of this planet. So, and as you heard, you know, the EIT Culture and Creativity is created as an initiative to really take advantage of the position the sector is in and the role it can play in really pushing forward on those very critical challenges we all face as communities, as nations, and as a planet. But you know, we know that the potential of the sector is huge, and there is a lot of effort going into that in form of the kick, in form of public support, but there is still a big gap in really fulfilling the potential of the sector. As you heard from Bernd earlier, it is not just about kick investing into those innovative initiatives that can really change, bring the change that we all want. To take them to the next stage, we need private sector. We really need to bring the money that is needed to fill the gap, to really fulfill the potential of the sector. And that is what the investment club is there for. From early on in our journey, we were very aware of the fact that we can't just create a vehicle that is putting out grants out there. We wanted to create a movement that really sort of becomes the center stage for creating value, both commercial value as well as social value from those activities that we are funding. And bringing private sector to that was really crucial. So we created the investment network to really sort of give platform to bringing investors from all parts of the ecosystem together. I think it is worth saying that there is still misunderstanding when it comes to investing in creative and culture sector. There's a lot of money out there, private money, and there are a lot of investors I speak to who want to be part of this sector, who want to invest in this sector, but we don't understand it. We don't know how to invest in it. There's a lot of misunderstanding. And there are good reasons for that. We know that we are a very fragmented sector. There are certain parts of the sector that are doing really well. There are other parts of the sector that have a very different business model. And making sense of that to someone who is outside our sector, our industries, is a very important task. So what we are trying to do through this network is to open up the opportunities that we have, the potential that we have in this industry to private investors, those who have not thought of investing in this space, those who are interested but can't take the first step. So that is one role that the investment club wants to play, to really be the platform where investors can interact, come together, look at the interesting potential, interesting ideas that this sector has, and bring the money and fill the investment gap that we still have in this sector.
Thank you, Mehja. And one quick question before Noah Barak comes with the mic. Is this investment network open as well for philanthropic and social impact investing?
Exactly. It absolutely is. As you heard from Bernd earlier, and as I said, we are not really just looking at private investors, even though we want to leverage a lot of private money for this sector. Philanthropic and sort of impact investment has a big role to play in our space. We know there are foundations all over Europe that have been investing in culture for centuries, and they are doing that work quite quietly. And sometimes we don't hear about the important role that money plays in supporting our cultural institutions. So it is absolutely about impact investors, absolutely about foundations. We have already started work in bringing that part of the funding ecosystem, foundations, philanthropic investors, and private sector investors to really break barriers and really understand all that important value that foundations and philanthropic sector is bringing to creative sector, how we can even increase that impact of that to really two sides speak each other. We recently had a sort of an event, a meeting of the two sides, and it was very obvious that there are still some trust issues. There's still some language barriers that the two sides don't understand. So yes, we as a KIC want to play a key role in bringing all forms of finance to this sector and making that easy for companies to really understand that it's not just one route they have to take. Grant is something we have relied on as a sector for a long time, but there are other ways. There's venture philanthropy, there's foundations, there's private investment.
Thank you so much, Mehjabeen. And I will leave her for you to invite your guests.
Definitely.
And talk about money.
Yes. So, thank you very much, Patricia, and let me go back to my... Right. I have a really nice, really great panel for you to come on stage and have a conversation. Just to say, this is going to be very fluid, improvised conversation, and I want you guys to take part and ask questions of the panel. We haven't rehearsed these conversations, so it should be an interesting next 45 minutes. Can I please invite my panel on stage? So first of all, Noaa Barak. Noaa Barak is the Senior Strategy and Engagement Manager at GCMA and really involved heavily with 4 Years From Now project. Noaa, please. To the next, I have Carlos Anton, Business Development Manager at EGEDA. Carlos has been involved in this space in the audiovisual sector for a very long time, and a lot of you would know the work he has done. And he keeps on coming up with interesting ideas and interesting projects for this sector. So we'll hear more from Carlos. Carlos, please come and join us. And last but not least, Luis Cueto, advisory member of the Secretary of State for Telecommunications and Digital Infrastructure of the Ministry of Economic Affairs and Digital Transformation, Government of Spain. Please do make your way to the stage. We all know the very important leadership role the Government of Spain plays in audiovisual sector, so we'll hear more from Carlos, from Luis as well. I'm going to take a seat and sit down here with my not with my earrings. Great. So, as I said, I really want an interactive conversation and really want to hear from you, and hopefully the audience will get involved as well. So, I spoke earlier about the importance of the creative sector and the potential it has. And, we heard earlier it's about 650 billion worth of sector, employs lots of small companies and individuals, and is very cross-cutting. But we still see a lot of barriers to attracting investment. Could you, Lewis, I will start with you. Could you sort of shed a light on how can we make sure that to fulfill the potential of the sector and attract the right investment? Secondly, especially coming from your perspective, there's a big pressure on governments, on regional bodies, on pan-European institutions, on really cost of living crisis with the financial crisis. How can we make sure that attention is not diverted to other places and the culture and creativity still receives the investment it needs?
Okay, well, thank you very much. My first suggestion is to change the title of the session. Could be better instead of culture and creativity, in culture and industries and creativity. Because there's a thin line between culture and entertainment. Most of the money funded to the visual products are entertainment. We could not say they are culture as the classical concept of culture. So this has a very important consequence in terms of the permission of the European authorities to give public money to productions. So the exception of the culture, it's tried to be widened with a great pressure. I was going to say violence, but I will say pressure to reach other fields not accepted up to now. I mean, video games, animation, visual effects, etc. So what we are doing in the Spanish government is to understand a very wide concept of audiovisual, including these fields, including video games, including virtual effects, including animation, so that it's not only television and cinema. My first statement should be public money is not the solution because of the constraints and the difficulties to have the approval of the authorities to inject money to the cultural products. So if the private money is the solution, we should do something to facilitate, to encourage the private money. Our most important tool is the tax incentives, as all you know. Every country is competing with the others to gain more competitivity, giving more incentives to the production coming to Spain. Spain has been done a very important bet 2 years ago to have a solution to the coronavirus pandemic, increasing in a very important amount the tax incentives to productions in Spain, so that we are one of the most competitive countries in the world. It's not enough to have tax incentives. You need 2 or 3 more elements. You need talent, you need security in every term that we call security, because many productions that were going to Bulgaria, Romania, Ukraine are coming to Spain because there's no security there. And, of course, good conditions to shoot and to make post-production here. And finally, money. But I say finally money because there is, even the last 2 years, this is reducing. If you work with Amazon, with Netflix, with Disney, etc., they're reducing 30% their investments in creating products. This is recent. 2 years ago, there was a wedding. Oh, everything is wonderful. More money than capacity to be spent. This is no more. So, if we did good our job, we have now the conditions of obtaining the best part of this money that rest in the market. So, to finish this introduction, a good political policy supporting without doubts the audiovisual politics, the audiovisual policy, and for the Spanish government is one of the 30 main key issues to recover our economy. One of the 30 main is electric car, is fight against pollution, and audiovisual policy, one of them. And this means many things. Of course, good tax conditions and supporting the talent and the capacities that are in the country. In second intervention, I will explain more what we do in training and some other fields.
Great. Thank you very much, Luis. I think it's very obvious to see the leading role Spain is playing in supporting the audiovisual sector, and it is obvious from a lot of initiatives and a lot of funding and support. So having that as a key sector is quite good to see. And also the point you made around convergence, it's not just about film and television. The talent moves from film and television to games like very easily, and the two things are quite converging, and seeing the wider role of content is really key. So that's a really, really good point. Noaa, can I move to you now? So, you see a lot of sort of investors and companies in this space, and you have a slightly different perspective from sort of tech side, I would say. Tell me, what are you seeing, the sort of key challenges, and what are sort of, share with us any ideas, any good practices that are used to invest in this sector and break those barriers I was talking about earlier?
Okay, yeah, sure. So in my work at 4 Years From Now, part of what I do is I lead our work with the community of investors. We have some 1,000 investors interested in, generally speaking, in digital startups and different sectors and industries. They represent business angels, VCs, CVCs, and so on. So a very wide range of investment interest profiles and so on. And so when we talk about culture and creative industries, there's one thing that I think is kind of very important to define from the starting point. And that is that it's a huge field with a huge typology of projects. And some of them might be very, very relevant for private investors because they have very clear return on investment kind of way of thinking. And some of them are not relevant for private investors, and that's okay. And I think that part of what needs to be thought of is, let's look at all that typology of projects and try to matchmake the type of project to the right funder. Is it philanthropy? Is it a government program? Is it a private investor? Is it crowdfunding? And so I think that is necessary in order to then identify those gaps and see if they can be mediated through incentives and so on. And I think there are already some amazing examples. There's a specific example from the UK about something very simple that was done, wherein the pubs were given, within the pub license, a license for live music. And at the same time, they were required to always have on tap like a homemade kind of craft beer. And so that created like a huge support for the development of the music industry in the UK, while at the same time support for local breweries, right? So it's maybe something very small that can have a huge impact. But then going back to the investor's point of view, we do see obviously growing interest in digital startups and in those areas. And this is simply because the economic returns with the introduction of a lot of kind of new technology. So we've discussed generative AI. There's also sort of self-publishing platforms, Shopify's, Etsy, all of that. There's just so many new avenues to create revenues from creative and cultural projects that all of a sudden this is becoming very attractive to private investors as well. And we're seeing definitely growing interest in that. This is part of the reason why Creative Minds at 4 Years From Now is one of our main event themes, and we make sure to bring artists into the conference and to bring really creative entrepreneurs to represent that point of view. But what we do hear from investors is that sometimes projects that come from this field maybe are missing some help with argumenting the return on investment better, maybe some support with kind of further developing their business models and so on. So I think there is a gap there where sort of public funded programs can come and help entrepreneurs just to kind of be better investment ready. So that when the time comes, then can really make the most out of connecting to those investors.
Yeah, that's a really good point now. And I think we come back to that whole training and investment readiness program, as Lewis said. I think it is key. We can't just talk about investment without actually making sure the sector has the capacity to observe, take that investment in the way that is intended and really speak the language and be ready for it. So that's a really good point. And also I think the point you made around it is such a fragmented and diverse sector. Yeah. There are, audiovisual, games, crafts, fashion, architecture, cultural heritage, and sometimes they are quite different. What they share is the creative imagination and IP and all of that, but their business models are very different. So one approach may not fit all. Exactly. So we really do need different approaches. So on that note, I'm going to come to Carlos. You have been in this space supporting audiovisual projects for a very long time. Not only, and I want to hear from on that. And then you are seeing change the way the whole funding landscape is, and it is changing quite a lot, and there still exist a lot of challenges for a range of projects or companies to actually make money. Actually, for the panel, I do want to come to the whole concept of project versus company later on. But what are you saying, and how can we make things a bit better? There's new ways in which we can really support the investment needs of the sector.
Yeah, thank you, Mehjabeen. Okay, first of all, I agree with Luis on what he says. He said about believing ourselves that this is an industry. We are in an industry. We need to realize that we should take the approach of doing our creativity projects, our cultural projects, like if they were business. They are business. They are business, and it doesn't go against creativity.
Yeah,
it is just to do it better in a better way in order to ensure that they happen. In that way. In the European Union, I mean 20 or 25 or 30 years ago, mainly the creativity projects, the cultural and creativity projects were supported by grants, mainly by grants and only by grants. But this changed into access to finance at least 15 years ago, because grants, as you said, it was not enough, and you cannot support a sector only by grants, and converting grants in the only support this sector has, because the sector is enforced to be small in that way. So when this happened, access to finance, we built from EGEDA a tool, what it is a warranty mechanism to put the creators in touch with the finances, with the banks, providing them a warranty so that the bank won't ask the creator to warranty the loan with their own properties. Okay. This is how it works, but in my opinion, this is not the main topic. The main topic is that we have created a tool that enforces the creator, as Noaa says, how they approach to the investors. sometimes not in a very professional way, so they don't get investment from investors. And we have created a system where if they approach to create SGR, what it is the SGR we manage, and the project is not complete, we assess them on how to do it properly to get the finances, the finance and go to bank and get the finance. In that way, what I have to say is that the creative, cultural and creative sector is perceived as one of the more risky sectors, isn't it? But on our perform, this is not real. You know, the default rate we have in CREA-SGR after having financed over 1,000 million euro during 15 years is that the default rate is under 1%, where it is much lower than the general bank. So what I say it is, when you take care of one sector and you do it in a professional way with professional tools and with a specified assessment of the projects, you success. You success.
Carlos, you have a very important currency, it's credibility and the confidence of the banks.
Yep.
Because you have to be humble. You have the best, maybe the only, risk department in the industrial culture.
We are the risk.
You are.
Yeah,
you have.
we
you
are.
have. Because you know the creators.
Yeah.
And they know you. So if they are adventurous, they won't go because you will say no.
Yeah.
So I know you. I've been financing you for many years. So come, and I will trust you. So the confidence and credibility, you have never been paid to the bank. You always pay when you have to.
For sure.
So the next operation will be approved. So
Yeah.
any bank say no because I have no department risk. I have in building houses, but not in culture. But you have, and this is very important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I absolutely. I think you both make a very, very relevant point, and I wanted to add to that in my own experience, the default rate in culture and creative sector and industries is actually not worse, but if anything, it's better. And in UK, we did the same thing. You know, I can speak from sort of proper evidence that supporting creative sector with loans, the performance rate is 100%, zero default rate. And it is because the people who are investing know the sector. They know what will work. And I think I've seen that across the board. A lot of investors don't understand the sector. They don't know how to invest.
And if you allow me, there is a very important issue related to that. That is, in my opinion, the main challenge we have now. The challenge is to grow, but not to grow because we accept works Netflix give to us. The challenge is to have the IP, European IP. Because if not, you work today and you cease to work tomorrow. So the IP is the great challenge of the capacity of making good products, retaining the intellectual property. Yeah. This is a challenge. And if I go to CREA, they make me a guarantee of 2-3 million euros because I want to maintain my IP. It's not just I'm making a job for Disney. This is to growth. This is to be a mature industry.
Yeah.
I'm glad that, sorry, you touched
ahead.
on the issue of intellectual property, because from the point of view of private investors, normally the model is venture for equity, right? And this just simply doesn't work for a lot of creative projects and for artists and so on, because they're not interested in sharing their intellectual property, right? And there are ways around it, right? So you could invest in a company rather than in a specific project whereby an artist or a creator would maintain that intellectual property, right? You could go towards debt funding. So I think part of what we're maybe saying is that I agree with the fact that even some investors, they don't have the tools or the knowledge to run proper due diligence on some projects in this industry. But at the same time, I do think that the entrepreneurs are lacking support in kind of deciphering the wealth of kind of different funding methods that are out there and knowing how to approach each of them and being prepared for that moment of kind of first encounter so that it is successful.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think just taking that conversation forward, there's an argument to create more fund managers and gatekeepers who understand the sector, so that we're not relying on traditional banks and traditional fund managers who don't understand the sector. So there's a definitely argument to build the capacity, investment capacity of the sector. And just to plug in EIT culture and creativity here, that is what we are trying to do, really bring investors and increase their capacity to understand the sector, and also build investment instruments that are led by creative sector.
And the good news is that traditional agents, one of the most important, should be here more than us, we three. This is the Instituto de Crédito Oficial, ICO, that normally has been working for years with Televisión Española, supporting productions, etc. But now they are daring to advance to video games and animation. We have to challenge you please give us good projects, because ICO has now 1.5 billion euros to spend in the next 5 years. So we need good projects to be spent. We don't want to give this money back to the European Union. No, this is going to be loans, but in very good conditions for great projects, not for small projects. So this is the moment to grow.
Yeah.
This is the moment to grow.
In that sense, taking the experience we have about Korea SGR accessing to finance, what we are creating now is a new tool, what it is a crowdfunding, not only for equity but also for lending, with the capability of funding projects up to 5 million euro, and this will be what we will do is assess that projects in advance with our experience to identify good projects for the investors. So these investors will have a whole portfolio where you can go with not only 5 million euro. This is beside Media Invest tool, where investment funds from the whole Europe come, and if they have 20 million euro, they can select a portfolio of projects that have been previously assessed, and they are good projects, of course. They are risky projects. They are development projects, of course, but they have at least a certain level that have been assessed, and you can diversify investing in several projects in two ways: or lending money, if the project it is specified for getting a loan from this mechanism, or investing directly, not only in the project but also in the companies, as you said, Noah.
Yeah.
This is a Christmas present, no? It will be in January.
Hopefully.
In January it will be. Yeah, for Christmas.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So you heard from both sides of both sides of the panel that there is a lot of money for the creative sector, and it's so good to see that it's a dedicated fund for audiovisual, for games, and it's a large amount of money.
Yeah, I've discovered that many money is in the table, but if the people don't look the name video games or cinema, they don't ask for it.
Yes.
But the money is there. But, well, okay, let's put video games. We've done. The money is there for all the companies that want have good projects. But the specialty is that we make the world video games, audiovisual, etc.
Exactly. So I think I wanted to come to that point for all of you, really, and it's related to the earlier point you made around training and capacity building. I think one thing is as a sector, we want to move from talking about projects, not just in audiovisual, but in other parts of the sector, to companies. I personally don't like the word project because it starts and finishes, whereas a company can pivot and can create other values for the investor. So moving from project to company, and moving from grant to more commercial investment, even when that money is coming from public sector, even when that money is coming from philanthropic sector, it can still create a commercial return. And then the point you made that there is all that money, but companies don't come. So there is that issue of investment readiness, investor training. How can we support the businesses and startups and entrepreneurs in this sector to be investor ready and access that money? I'll start with you.
You have the ideal is to have the capacity to go to the whole chain. Beginning with R&D, we've put 30 million in CEDETI to create technology, not to buy it in Germany or in California, to create it in Spain. 30 million CEDETI, good spent. I hope there will be good projects in 2 years. Second, for startups, ENISA, 70.5 million euros for new companies. They invest not in a project, in a company, with an instrument that is called participative loans. So if you earn money, you give me back more than if you don't earn so much money, you give me back less. This is participative, basically said. So we have now done a very important project with 5 city councils to create infrastructures very cheap to the small companies, creating green screens, digital screens to make virtual shootings, and we have been 20 million to Madrid, Barcelona, Coruña, and Murcia. So they are going to create infrastructure, public infrastructure, to be to do a new service that it wasn't done before. And finally, well, there are many more, but to not spend some time, I want to focus that you know, all of you, the very important project of training that is called HAZ, of Televisión Española. We've gave them 70 million euros to train 40,000 people in audiovisual techniques. All the chain of audiovisuals. They are free, you have to pay, and when you finish the training, you give the money back, not to sign for courses that you never do. But it is a very important formal, informal, degrees, masters, etc. There is a great challenge, and please, no person without training, because it's very important, and this is done from Barcelona. This is done from Barcelona, the Instituto de Radio y Televisión Española. The training is very important because many companies say, I look for people and I don't find them. Yep. I have to reject projects because I don't have the money. I don't have the person. They go to London, they pay them more, or they have to Canada because they have more incentives when we speak of video games or etc. So gain competitivity and training is very important.
Yeah. That's really key for retaining the talent in Europe, so that doesn't go to China, America, or even UK. So that's really, really important. So Noah, just building on that argument, how do we make creative companies sort of more able to get the investment and speak the right language and be ready?
Yeah. So I think first of all, we don't have to go that far. We actually have ideas that have been working quite well in Europe and just need to be replicated in creative industries. So, for example, I don't know if anyone's heard of Horizon Europe, Horizon 2020, right? So billions of euros invested in R&D projects to generate great impact across the continent, across the world, really. And there's been a very serious infrastructure of chapters across Europe and in other countries dedicated to training people on the different funding tools. And so this methodology doesn't need to be reinvented. It just needs to be applied specifically to the sector. I don't think it's very, you'd have to invest some effort, but we're not talking about something very, very, very complicated to do.
Yeah.
And
but can I ask you, so, I hear from a lot of companies out there that, filling the funding forms for,
of course.
is a turn off. Some companies don't really go there.
Yeah, it's
because
hell.
It's a big turn off.
Yeah.
So they have to get their head around that this is an important money for as a startup. But then how do we get them ready so they can then go out in the big wild world and present themselves as a proposition for private and public investment?
So I think a lot of the
investment.
a lot of the responsibility actually lies on kind of on the funders themselves. So investors should maybe take a more active role working together with those entrepreneurs. So we have Cultec Accelerated that does that, right? So trying to help those entrepreneurs to kind of put together better proposals, you know, so take it from maybe a co-creation approach rather than having the entrepreneurs stand in front of a committee, have a bit more of a dialogue, help them maybe discover what is the business potential behind their projects, and maybe the conclusion is, no, this is not the right funding tool for you. There are other vehicles that might be more relevant. But I think maybe this is a mind shift that needs to happen both in the investor industry and on the side of the entrepreneurs and in the industry, right? So both need to kind of understand that there's a gap here, and that gap can be reduced by creating more dialogue, creating more encounters, so exactly like today, and creating specific opportunities for entrepreneurs to sit down with big companies, big corporates in the field with funders from different organizations, so public funders, banks as well, private investors, and have those conversations. So I think that's kind of step one.
Yeah,
Yeah,
great.
but it is not only a matter of funding. I mean, it is also a matter. It is also a matter of managing companies. The question you made, because you know, and this is a call of attention for the creators. Creators are very good creating, being creative, creating culture, but not necessarily managing companies. You know, so as we say in Spain, shoemaker, focus on your shoes. You know, so and this is a lack of skills that happens in this sector, that the creator has to do everything. You know, it is born small. He or she has the ideas, and as they don't find who help them to develop them, they become developer. They become entrepreneur, they become businessmen, and you know, and they do everything.
Público, ¿no?
Exactly, they're doing their bookkeeping as well as their content creation.
You know, so as it happens in other sectors, it is a matter of the entrepreneur, when they have an idea and they are specialized in one sector, and they have this solution to this problem, that the pharmaceutical problem, they investigate or whatever. They need the structure, the business structure to make this idea, their entrepreneuring grow.
Yeah.
You know, and these are different skills that rarely you can find in the same person.
That's right.
So, and in the creative sector, mostly in most of the companies, the creator and the businessman that lead the company is the same person.
Yeah, very good point. And you know, we can talk here forever because there's some really interesting things coming on, but we are short on time. The clock is ticking. So I wanted to leave a few minutes for some questions from the audience. I really hope this has ignited.
Marta, ¿puedes poner la página mientras ahí, mientras hablamos?
The mic? Do we have the mic? Here, please.
Pues grita.
Over there.
All right, thank you. My name is Matias Muñoz. I represent the World Intellectual Property Organization at the moment. And, well, my question is basically for the whole panel. I've heard how you've been explaining the interactions probably with the creators and people developing initiatives in the cultural and creative industries, entertainment, as you mentioned as well. And the business partners. You mentioned that sometimes the role is in the same company, right? But when it's not the case, how can you ensure that there's a license agreement that is safe for the creators and it's reliable and it's fair for them? Because in general, in experience, there might be a little bit scared to go on and relate with business partners because the chances that they're gonna lose in a way in terms of IP, in terms of agreements, is quite high. So what will be the ideal world where the business partners are happy with the agreement, but also the creators are happy with the agreement?
Yeah. A really good question. Who would like to take it? It's basically how can entrepreneurs preserve their rights?
Very difficult, quite impossible. Everything happy, but quite happy is enough. And I will recommend you to visit one of the systems the Instituto de Comercio Exterior has invested in Spain, a specialized bureau to attend all investors that want to come to Spain, and there is a specialized department in the Instituto de Comercio Exterior, so they can call to them. They are just focused on that to attend, and of course an intermediate between banks and creators, as EGEDA or CREA SGR has. This department of risk, they understand very well the problem. Just 1 minute. This is the map of the treasure. So everything is there in this web, Spain Audiovisual Hub, finance, training, everything. If it's not, please tell us to put there, because it's the main issue, the main coordination instrument that we've done for the recent 10 years in the audiovisual industry. So sign for the bulletin bi-weekly and get informed.
Yeah, I think, the intellectual property issue is a really, really big one, and we didn't have enough time to cover that. But there is not one silver bullet to preserve creators' intellectual property right, but they have to go out in the big old world and test those relationships. And there are some digital tools out there that give generic agreements and generic advice on how to preserve that. So,
and much more. Taking an example of what I previously said. Okay, in one of the parts that professionalize the sector, what it is accessing to finance. In the past, what you say, the fear to finance the creative and cultural sector was there for the banks, and it is no more. It is no more because we have added a tool that has project so professionals that they believe in us, they trust in us. So what it says, when we present a project to a bank, they don't even look at it. They provide the financing immediately, and at an interest rate, what it is the lower in the market. So the tools. So what we have to do is to investigate and to research what are the appropriate tools to develop this sector. Just it is just it.
Do we have one more question or no?
Venga, la última.
Do we have one more burning question, a quick one? If not, then we'll wrap this up. No.
Can I just say one
please,
thing about kind of the odd opinion about this? We had a panel, I think it was a year ago or so, 4 years from now. Yonat Vax is somewhere in the audience there. She's a crypto artist. She knows a lot about this. There's this whole emergence of NFTs and how they can be used in a way to protect the rights of artists and creatives. So I don't think that is like fully happening yet. But maybe it's a new avenue that's going to solve a lot of these issues. So, time will tell.
Great. Thank you very much. Right, with that, I really want to thank my panel. Thank you very much for a great discussion. And I will invite Patricia back to the stage.